Will the month of August bring a new military clash? China and America are at loggerheads over Taiwan. Their militaries are active in the South China Sea. There's a lot of saber rattling. And then there was a phone call. Joe Biden called Xi Jinping. He was supposed to resolve some of these issues. It ended up in an exchange of threats. China told the US to not play with fire. Taiwan is firming up its defenses, performing military drills. China is issuing dire statements and warnings. Will the US send one of its top leaders and add fuel to this fire, or will it back off and lose face? On Gravitas tonight, we decode the moves over Taiwan and discuss why the world should pay attention to China's growing aggression. We did not make up this exchange, it happened for real. Was it a free-flowing conversation or a shouting match? What was Joe Biden thinking when he dialed Xi Jinping? The White House says it had modest expectations. Team Biden wanted to, quote-unquote, manage the differences. Clearly, it did not go as per the plan. Biden and Xi spoke for 2 hours and 17 minutes. And far from managing the differences, this conversation has only exacerbated the crisis. Xi's message to Biden was clear. He won't back off on Taiwan. He has no plans to dial down tensions. And that China is more than willing to use force if it comes to that. Today, Beijing sent the same message to New Delhi. Foreign ministers of both countries are in Tashkent, India and China. And at a time like this, China sent a ship to India's neighborhood. Beijing is becoming more aggressive by the day. Why is Xi Jinping raising the threat of conflict? On Gravitas tonight, we'll discuss all of that, starting with a Biden-Xi phone call. The two leaders have spoken to each other 5 times so far. The latest exchange happened on Thursday. We told you about it yesterday. The focus was on Taiwan. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi wants to visit Taiwan. China is determined to stop the visit from happening. The threat assessment is grave. Some reports even say that Beijing could shoot down Pelosi's plane to stop her. It's a bit extreme, shooting down the plane. And you could dismiss these reports as not credible. But there's no denying the fact that the situation is precarious. Tensions are high in the South China Sea. China ramped up its military activity in the region. It has conducted drills and patrols. In response, the U.S. has deployed an aircraft carrier and a strike group there. Taiwan, too, is making some moves. Earlier this week, it conducted drills on the high seas. U.S. officials are worried about these developments. On Tuesday, Washington issued a fresh warning. This came from the State Department. It said China is engaging in, quote-unquote, aggressive and irresponsible behavior. And this behavior is a threat to peace and security. That's what the U.S. says. So Biden's phone call with Xi Jinping was perfectly timed. The idea was to diffuse tensions, but that did not happen. Instead, Xi Jinping used the opportunity to warn Joe Biden. The Chinese president told the American to not play with fire. I have Xi Jinping's statement with me. This is what he said. Those who play with fire will perish by it. It is hoped that the U.S. will be clear-eyed about this. I want you to pay attention to the first line. Those who play with fire will perish by it. This was part of the official statement from China. Beijing made it a point to release this. And this language is the hallmark of Chinese wolf warriors. Earlier, only Chinese diplomats used such words. Now their president is doing the same, issuing a direct threat to the U.S. Beijing followed it up with this.
The One China principle is the political foundation for China-US relations. China firmly opposes separatist moves towards Taiwan independence and interference by external forces. It never allows any room for Taiwan independence forces in whatever form. The position of the Chinese government and people on the Taiwan question is consistent, resolutely safeguarding China's national sovereignty and territorial integrity is the firm will of more than 1.4 billion Chinese people. The public opinion cannot be defied. Those who play with fire will perish by it. We hope the US will be clear-eyed about this.
中国人民的坚定意志。
How did Joe Biden respond to Xi Jinping? He repeated his old promise on Taiwan. I have that statement too, the statement from the White House. This is what Joe Biden is said to have told Xi Jinping about Taiwan. The United States policy has not changed, and that the United States strongly opposes unilateral efforts to change the status quo or undermine peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. This was Biden's answer. An anodyne statement in response to China's clear threat. It's safe to say Biden could not get Xi Jinping to back down, but he still wants to keep talking to the Chinese president.
They had a very direct conversation, and that they've known each other for some time. President Biden has known President Xi for about 4 decades. This is a relationship that they've had for some time, and again, it was a direct, straightforward conversation. They wanted to make sure that they continued the dialogues, kept the open lines for conversation, and that's what we saw today.
Biden has known Xi Jinping for 4 decades, she says. Well, he may have, but that is not helping his cause. There's hardly any positive takeaway from this phone call. Apart from Taiwan, they also discussed trade, climate change, health, security, even the war in Ukraine. But Taiwan obviously overshadowed the rest. China and America cannot improve their bilateral relationship until they figure out this one, and that's unlikely to happen. China continues to flex its military power, not just before the US, but also in front of neighbors like India. The provocations from the PLA are growing by the day. Earlier this week, we told you how Beijing has been mobilizing fighter jets. Chinese jets have flown dangerously close to the line of actual control, the de facto border in the Himalayas. And now Chinese ships are challenging India. A Chinese vessel is on its way to Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. The name of the ship is Yuan Wong 5. It is said to be a research and survey vessel. But India has reason to be concerned. Why? Because Yuan Wong ships are apparently controlled by the Chinese military. That is the assessment from the US Defense Department. What more does it say? The US report says Yuan Wong ships are operated by the PLA Strategic Support Force. So what is this ship going to do in Sri Lanka? No one knows for sure. One report says the ship will be in Hambantota for a week. It will conduct, quote-unquote, space tracking, satellite control and research tracking activities. Sounds suspicious. India is said to have lodged a verbal protest with the Sri Lankan government. But after Xi Jinping's call with Joe Biden, not just India, the whole world has reason to worry about China's intentions. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.